Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, the Horror Boy. Welcome back to some more reviews. And I kind of wanted to get back on here and shoot another video for you guys. And I wanted to discuss a film that is always questioned to me. Like why I love this movie so much. Why do I have this movie as my number one favorite horror film? Why do I love it so much? Why do I feel like it's the best horror film? A lot of people are very curious about why I put this movie so high up there. And usually when I make these kind of videos, the Why I Love series, I discuss movies that I feel are underrated. Films that get overlooked and films that don't get the attention they deserve. And a lot of films I've discussed, mainly sequels. I've discussed plenty of sequels. And I did discuss Chainsaw Massacre 2 and 3. Because those are two films that I really love that I felt deserved their own videos of me describing why I really love them. But I'm pretty sure this is the last one I'll do for this franchise, because even though I do enjoy the movies after Part 3, I would say the first three are the best. First three to me are the ones I watch the most. It's a trilogy that I like, and I always find myself coming back to watch these movies. And I wanted to get on here and talk with you guys and give you guys the reasoning why I think this movie is the best horror film to me. It's my favorite one. It's the most effective one to me. And ever since I first saw it, just to me, I haven't seen a movie since this film that has been able to top this tone, this direction, this realistic horror like this. And I don't really want to discuss the plot line or any of the backstory type stuff. I kind of just want to tell you guys why I personally really enjoy this movie. And if you guys want to give any feedback in the comments, definitely do so. These videos are actually made for that. I want discussion. I want feedback. I want us to have conversation in the comments. I almost said comics. I wanna hear you guys' feedback. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this movie. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Do you think it's okay? I love making these videos for discussion reasons. And I remember when I first seen this movie. This is one of those big movies that really got me into horror and really got me into wanting to get on YouTube and do this. Of course, a lot of film reviewers online had really inspired me. I didn't even know movie reviewing was a thing until I was on YouTube and found a couple of reviewers like Rambo, Rap for Life, and OSP Communications. I also found Cool Duder. He was a big inspiration for me. And also, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, a lot of these really great movie reviewers. And I found this community of movie reviewers, and I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what film discussions and reviews were. And it was a combination of finding those guys on YouTube that really inspired me. And it was also a combination of really falling in love with the horror genre. And at the time, there were those films that I was seeing that really got me into the genre, like Evil Dead, this movie, the Friday the 13th franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, exploring these different franchises that I had never seen before. And just really sitting down and finding these pillar movies that really inspired me to make videos about these. And so Chainsaw Massacre is the movie that when I've seen it, and I just thought it was the best experience as a movie goer watching a horror film that I've had. And I can still get the same feelings and reactions from this movie when I watch it today that I did back then. I mean, I may not be as scared as I was back then, because even though I can't see the movie every single scene, have me jumping out of my seat, I can say that there were things about this movie that really unsettled me. And there's still a little bit about that in here, or if I can say it right, there's still a little bit of that that's still in the movie. There are things in this movie that still get me. Like there's a sequence in this movie, the dinner scene, that still gets me. I can watch that 1,000 times, and every single time it makes me uncomfortable, and it sucks you into the movie. You feel like that's the moment in the movie where it feels like you've been pulled in for a second and you're there and you're just watching it. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's just so immersive. That scene, the dinner scene, her tied down, screaming, the shots of the eye, and the sound effects, and the camera work, and the acting in that scene, and just knowing the backstory, and knowing how long it took to film that scene. It's a very immersive scene. It really gets you into that world for a second. And that scene still gets to me. And I'll discuss that in more details in a second, because that's really a key scene to me that made me just go, yes, this is my favorite. This is a movie that just, it blew me away. It blew me away whenever I first seen it. And when I first watched it, I didn't know there was an old Chainsaw Massacre. Believe it or not, I mean, this was back when I was really young. I was like 13, 14 when I first seen this. And I didn't know there was an old Chainsaw Massacre. I didn't know there was a lot of old classic horror films, because I grew up with the remakes, you know. The Chainsaw Massacre remake, the Hills of Eyes remake, a lot of these remakes that I didn't even know had original films. And when I had heard about this movie, I actually heard of it because back then I loved looking up old horror trailers. And I still do. I still find myself looking up old horror trailers, like Dawn of the Dead trailer, or the Return of the Living Dead trailer, or, you know, old slasher film trailers. I just love that old school trailer vibe. Like, I love the way they were done, the voiceovers, the way they were edited. And I really dug those horror trailers from back in the day. And this popped up in a compilation video of horror trailers, and I had never seen this movie. I had never seen clips from this movie. I didn't know anything about it. So I watched the trailer and really got interested in the film. I was like, I didn't even know there was an old Chainsaw Massacre. So I have an old DVD. I don't even have it anymore. It was like an older DVD that I had. Watched the movie, and really, when the movie was over, just was like, wow, like what a great horror film. What a great sit down. It's a quick movie, easy to get through, not slow paced at all. Just a really horrifying experience. And I remember when I had seen that with a combination of other films I had seen, like Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, the old school Last House on the Left, especially that one too. Really wanted to get on here and start making videos for you guys. And I think this movie has an energy to it. It has a vibe to it that hasn't been topped since then. That I feel, even to this very day, is this energy there. There's this craziness to it. And what I love about the movie is there's a lot of detail put into every single scene. And it's because of the low budget. It's because of the circumstances of making the movie. I mean, this was not an easy movie to make at all. This is a very difficult and hard film to make. This was shot really in Texas, really in the heat, using real bones and real animal parts, and like using not even sets. It's all real. I mean, they may have had like props and stuff like that, but it was a real house. You know, it was all very real. Very real. Like, it's not a lot of CGI and, you know, effects. A lot of it is real. And you feel it come to the screen. Just the way the environment comes to life, and the way that the props are made, and the way that the atmosphere especially. And this movie really made me fall in love with just how to make an atmosphere at the horror film. And I mentioned that word a lot, atmosphere, and I mentioned the word sound a lot in film reviews, because I notice that's how I am. I look at visually at the movie has going on, and I listen audibly at the movie is having going on too. And so I'm listening to these sound effects and the music, and I'm watching a lot of these scenes. And this movie really nails that stuff. I mean, visually, the movie is both beautiful and horrifying at the same time. That's hard to do. There's not many horror films that can do that. And I noticed a lot of the Chainsaw Massacre movies after this put like these dark gray filters or these degraded filters over the atmosphere. And so as a result of that, not even 2 and 3 have that kind of an atmosphere where it's both beautiful to look at and also can be creepy at the same time. Because you have these wonderfully done shot, like these wonderfully beautiful shots of the outside world, of the van being right here in the frame in a giant blue sky, or shots of the sun and the forest terrain or the desert terrain, and focusing on different things. It's very beautiful to look at sometimes. It's very, very well shot. And then there are times where it can be shot very creepily. And the bone room sequence, the butcher's room, the various rooms in this house, the night sequences of the outside desert just being pitch black outside. And I feel like that's what I'm talking about with the whole beautiful and scary atmosphere it has, which I imagine would be very hard to do. And a lot of horror films don't do that. A lot of horror films just put a really creepy filter over something and just let it go, And I think there's nothing wrong with making the movie look degraded, but with this movie, it's kind of like naturally degraded. It was, when you watch the movie, it has this raw feel to it. But there are also these shots that are very, very well done and very, very good to look at. And I think also audibly, like I'm very much into what I'm seeing in the film and what I'm hearing. And of course, I admire stuff like the direction and the writing and the acting and all that stuff too. But to me, I'm always like, okay, visually, is it interesting? And audibly, like, does it capture your full attention? And the movie does. And even the sound effects, I had never heard a movie that sounded like this before. I had never seen one like this, where you're wondering, what was that sound effect that I just heard? And really what it is, it was Tobe Hooper just experimenting. Just using various things he had kind of laying around and making these bizarre sounds, these hellish sounds. And so when you're listening to it, you're trying to figure out, what am I listening to? It's not even a soundtrack. It's this collection of creepy-ass sounds. And so you're sitting there wondering, what is that sound? What is that noise? It's just this bizarre ambiance of sounds over the film that really add to that atmosphere, and it just makes it so hellish and so creepy. And I can't even describe. It's not really music per se. It's just this barrage of sound effects, and you'll hear like a bell toll, or maybe strings getting pulled, and it's just this really bizarre soundtrack that I thought fit the movie perfectly. And I don't think I've seen the movie before do that kind of thing, where it's not even really music, it's just these sound effects being done. And I've only heard a handful of films try to do that. But man, that really helps the movie. And also the sounds that you hear, just the sounds that Leatherface makes, or the scene where Sally is going crazy. The sound effects in that scene, it makes you put yourself into the scene, and you're going absolutely mad right along with Sally. And it's just this really bizarre thing they do with that. And that whole scene, visually and audibly, which is out of this world. And also, I noticed when I'd watched this movie, I had walked out thinking I had seen a gore fest. I was like, that was a pretty gory movie. That was pretty brutal. When I went back and I rewatched it, I noticed it wasn't bloody and gory at all. Like, there wasn't no blood or gore in there. It was just what you thought you seen, what you thought was there. And it's this gritty movie, grimy film, dirty movie that when you watch it, you feel grimy after you watch it. You feel like you just feel like dirty after you watch this movie. And it's got that thick atmosphere to it. And I feel like that's why when you watch it, you feel like you watch a bloodbath. It's that atmosphere that you don't really quite see the violence, but it's still there. You know, you got people getting hit in the head with, you know, sledgehammer, people getting chainsawed up. And it's still there, but you're not seeing the gore. So it fills in the blanks, and I think it works perfectly. And I love that style because it's so much more easier to make a gore effect and put some blood and guts in there. And yeah, in some movies, it's cool seeing the gore effects, you know. But it's a lot harder to not show it and make it scary still. And that's why I give major props to films like this and The Exorcist 3, where it's all up to your interpretation. It's all up to what your mind creates. And I think that really works, you know. I think it really does. And I think it's really scary that way. And just the realism of the movie and the way that everybody acts in the film. And I notice that's a complaint with most people, is that the acting isn't very good. I'm not going to sit here and say that's like Oscar-worthy acting or anything like that. But to me, the acting, I didn't have a problem with at all. And I think what it is, like I said before, it just feels like you've been put in the middle of the situation, and the dialogue is very natural. It's just dialogue. I'm talking about various different things, you know. And I think the conversations are very natural, and they're very realistic. So you're not having these really deep dialogue scenes where it's going through 1,000 layers of emotion. It's like you're just kind of there along with the characters, and they're talking about different things and kind of going along with life. And I felt like it was very realistic in that way. I also think that this is the best like Leatherface look and portrayal. I mean, rest in peace to all the people who passed away from that made this movie. I mean, you have Gunnar Hansen, Marilyn Burns, Jim Seedow, of course, Toby Hooper passed away as well. A lot of people, unfortunately, did pass away that had made this movie. And I want to say rest in peace to all those amazing people, because they were responsible for, to me, the best horror film, and to most people, one of the best horror films of all times. And it's just Gunnar Hansen's portrayal of Leatherface in this movie. What I love is it's not too violent. I mean, it's violent, but it's not like Ari Mahaloff, where Leatherface has this like 18-foot chainsaw and he's not afraid of anything. It's this portrayal of a person with multiple personalities, and this person completely mentally gone. But it's not like Part 4, where it's basically treating him like a joke, where he's screaming and being told to shut up and sit down, and he does it. You know, it's more of that psychological thing with Leatherface, where he's in so many different places at once psychologically, and it's really disturbing to watch that. And the mask too. The mask to me in this movie looked great. It was very realistic looking and not too far-fetched. So I really enjoyed the mask. I really enjoyed the look of Leatherface in this film. The movie is not long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, 24 minutes, somewhere around there. It's very, very short, very, very fast-paced, has a great atmosphere. It's shot so well. Like, there are scenes in this movie that the cinematography is absolutely amazing. I mean, of course, there's that infamous shot of the girl walking up to the house, and the house just getting more enlarged as she walks. And I do love that shot, but I love the camera work in like the bone room scene, where the camera is just going around the room and you're seeing these various creations, and you're seeing just bones and feathers and stuff just everywhere. And it brings this world to life. It brings the world of these crazy people to life. And also, I guess I can kind of mention this too. The dinner scene. The dinner scene, to me, whenever I got to that scene, when I was watching this movie, I was already in love with it. Just the atmosphere, the griminess, and everything. But that whole third act, to me, is where it was just nailed. Nailed. It was hook, line, and sinker. I was into it. You know. And that dinner scene really sets up a great escape scene where, you know, Sally does escape and jumps through the window and goes outside to the road, and the tension just builds and builds and builds. But the scene where she's going crazy knowing the backstory behind that scene, it's like a 30, 40-hour shoot straight, just in this room that's probably well over 100 degrees. It was shot during the day, so they had to put these curtains all over the windows so it was dark in the house. So I'm pretty sure it was over 100 degrees in there. The food on the table was real food and props and stuff like that, real bones and everything, and it began to stink, it began to rot. I believe on some of the behind the scenes, something caught on fire outside and they had to put it out, and it smelled like burnt. So it was like this burnt, I think it was bones that caught on fire or something, this burnt bone smell. And so you had this disgusting smell of that, and the food rotting, and the just 40, 30-hour shoot, Marilyn screaming, everybody laughing in that scene, and just knowing the backstory adds to that intensity of that scene. And you're just seeing it. You're seeing these actors just losing it, kind of, not really going crazy per se, but you're watching, you could see the insanity of the scene, where Marilyn is just screaming and everybody's laughing, the camera's all wonky and it's up on her eye and the eye is just bloodshot and it's just looking around, and I love that. It's so freaking immersive. You feel like you're watching true terror. That's what that scene is to me. You're watching true terror. You're watching somebody scared out of their mind. And the sound effects and the way it's all filmed and her screaming, that scene to me is so iconic. That's like one of the best horror sequences of all time. It is so freaking intense. And the way it leads into the ending of the film is beautiful, because that ending is so great, where she runs and the hitchhiker gets run over by a semi-truck and Leatherface gets knocked down, chainsaw his leg. She gets in the car, Leatherface hits after her with a chainsaw. She gets driven off. He dances. The movie ends. It's just perfect ending. It's the perfect way to end it. And the music during the credits, it's just like all that stuff was nailed in the third act. I think it has a really, really classic, great third act. So it ends very good as well. Has a good ending, middle. It has a good beginning, middle, and end. And I love the performances in the movie. I love the set design. I love the just rawness of it, the true horror aspect of this film. But yeah, this has always been a movie that I've really enjoyed. I can't call too many movies masterpieces. There are a lot of good ones. There are a lot of great ones. There are a lot of decent ones. But to call a film a masterpiece, I don't do very often. I just don't. There's not a lot of movies I think of and I go, oh, it's a masterpiece. I think it's great. Mainly because I don't want to overrate a movie. I don't want to overhype it and be like, oh yeah, it's the greatest movie of freaking ever of all time, But this to me is a masterpiece, and I generally feel that. I do. I sincerely feel that it is a masterpiece. It's something that everybody should watch and experience for at least once in their lives. And yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts and the feedback in the comments below. So if you guys enjoy this movie, definitely let me know in the comments below if you enjoy it, if you just like it, or if you don't enjoy it. But anyways, that's my reasons of why I love this movie so much. Just wanted to get on here and kind of explain it to you guys and, have a little discussion video. Haven't uploaded in quite a while, so I wanted to give you guys a little video. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Explorer Force out. I'll be seeing you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.